I also want to argue that in the context of modernity, which places certain pressures and challenges on our concept of motherhood, that motherhood still matters, that it's still significant to us in this modern context. Comparatively little philosophical work has been done on this topic, and it's worth examining why this is. I think one of the reasons for little attention to it is that it may be thought that motherhood is simply too concrete and too personal. It's a very subjective kind of thing. Different people have different emotional responses to it. And given all these radically different responses, it may be very difficult to think that one can come up with any kind of objective philosophy of this experience. The second reason I think the philosophy of motherhood is relatively understudied is that, very simply, the majority of philosophers are not themselves mothers. So I think the topic is just not of very great interest to a community in which the majority of people have not ever experienced this phenomenon themselves. And to some extent, I think this is very understandable because I myself, as a philosopher, had absolutely zero interest in the phenomenon or topic of motherhood as a philosophical topic or otherwise before I became a mother myself. Thirdly, I think some philosophers have argued, have believed that motherhood actually gets in the way of doing philosophy. So the ancient thinker Socrates was totally okay with motherhood serving as a kind of model or a paradigm for understanding the spiritual gestation and the bringing forth of wisdom, not so okay with the bringing forth of actual babies. So he has, through the voice of one of the only female speakers in all of the Socratic dialogues, the woman Diotima, who's Socrates' teacher, says, who, when he thinks of Homer and Hesiod and the other great poets, would not rather have their children than ordinary human ones? Socrates here is presenting an argument for celibacy, for spiritual parenthood, as being far superior and actually to be preferred to the biological variety of parenthood. More to the extremes, I think other philosophers, especially feminist philosophers like Jeffner Allen, have argued that motherhood is actually dangerous for women, that it actually results in the annihilation of women. And Allen advocates for what she calls the philosophy of evacuation, that women should, she says, evacuate ourselves from motherhood altogether before motherhood renders us null and void. She even, in certain moments, argues that instead of bearing children, women should bear arms against the men, against the patriarchy that would have us bear children. Aldous Huxley has a fascinating novel that I recommend to everyone titled Brave New World, in which he envisions a kind of dystopian, very disturbing kind of society and culture in which there are no mothers. There are no more natural mothers who bear children because everyone in the society is gestated and born out of a test tube. And in this society, interestingly, and unsurprisingly, the word mother and motherhood has actually become a bad word. It's actually become a sort of the bad word beyond all bad words. What Huxley is trying to show is that the word mother becomes unspeakable when we find that the idea of mother and motherhood becomes unthinkable. Yet I think to ordinary human beings and the majority of people, the word mother retains a kind of profound human significance. It is, after all, one of the greatest of all shared human experiences, one on which strong friendships are often founded.